You're listening to the Jōrni Podcast. What happens when we stop networking and start truly connecting? Tune in for more in today's 300th episode. Hi, I'm Petra Brunbauer, and with decades of experience with sadness, pain, anxiety, and stress, I finally figured out how to leave all that behind. And this podcast shows you how to break free permanently so you can reclaim your sanity and find the self-esteem and energy to go after the life you desire. With real talk about mental health, holistic healing, and the tough journey of coming out the other end. This is the Jōrni Podcast. Welcome to today's 300th episode, and thank you for tuning in. It has been such a privilege to host so many inspiring and empowering guests over the years, and I want to thank you, our listeners, for coming along on this journey. Your support has made the Jōrni Podcast an incredible community of learning, connection, and growth, and I am so excited to continue this adventure together for another 300 episodes and beyond. In this episode, we explore the powerful impact of intentional human connection and why relationships are fundamental to both personal and professional success. Our guest shares insights gathered from over 2 decades of experience working with leaders worldwide, highlighting how authentic networking creates opportunities and drives meaningful growth. Gil Petersil is a global business strategist, speaker, and facilitator known as the Master Connector. With over 20 years of experience across 50-plus countries, he helps leaders turn relationships into results through strategic networking, AI-powered growth, and mastermind facilitation. As a trusted coach and mentor, Gil supports founders and startups in gaining clarity, scaling their vision, and forging high-impact partnerships. He's also the co-founder of Tea, a global tea industry integrator that blends experiential facilitations with modern connection and community. Here is my interview with Gil Petersil. Hi, Gil. It's so great to have you on the podcast today. I've been looking forward to getting to chat with you because we will be diving into the art of human connection, such a huge part of our mental and physical well-being and how we live and show up in the world. So thank you for spending this time with us and welcome to the podcast.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Petra, for what you're doing. Thank you for this journey that you're taking all of us on.
Thank you. It's my absolute pleasure to have you here. And I feel like you have such a wealth of wisdom on specifically this topic, seeing that you have made it your life's work to be in human connection and to foster, support, and create human connection. So would you like to share a little bit maybe about yourself, your journey, your story, the pieces that bring us to today, and maybe share what it is that you do today for some of our listeners who might not know you yet?
Yeah, thank you so much. So my journey has been quite diverse, complex. Some would call it the hero's journey. Some would call it a peasant's journey. I would call it just a human journey. We have our ups and downs. So many of us go through this constant clarity and constant further clarity of like who we are, what are we doing, how can I serve, what impact am I doing, what is the purpose of my life? And that journey for me started very, very young, where as an introvert by nature and an immigrant since the age of 10, I found myself out of place at a very young age already, at the age of 10, moving into Canada, having English as not a language I spoke, and suddenly finding myself disconnected. That beginning of a journey into connection, like understanding how much I wanted connection, how much I was like, oh my God, I'm in a new country. I got my siblings, but I got no friends. I don't speak the local language. Now I understand what the depth of that disconnection meant. Back then, it just led to fear. It led to fear of loneliness. It led to fear of not having any friends. It led to fear to not knowing how to communicate if I needed help. And through my life, I've moved around from country to country. I've lived in 7 different countries. I've been in more than 10 different industries. As an entrepreneur, I have what I call successful failures. And I've had more than 20 of those as an entrepreneur, from restaurants and juice bars to mobile apps and app companies. And wow, event companies have been the best, and promotion companies have been the best. And all of these journeys took me into connection and disconnection, not just with myself, with the universe, with God, with nature, but of course with people. And all of these successful failures brought me to an understanding that this is not something we're taught. It's not something that in school someone taught me. How do you make friends? Or how do you change your friends? Or what does it mean to have a soft landing in a new country as a youngster or as an adult, and feel that it is soft, not feel like, oh my God, I'm in a new place. How do I connect to people? I need friends. I need a job. I need clients. It's overwhelming for us. And it's not fair because that knowledge was never given to me. And I had to go through it the hard way. It was like a lot of labor, and it became a labor of love. It became a labor of like, oh my God, connection feels so good. And through that journey, I learned that disconnection also feels good, because disconnections allows us to create space and time to make new connections. Because historically, disconnection felt bad, like leaving a job or leaving friends or leaving a relationship. It felt bad, like it's sad. And again, no one has taught us how to deal with that. Living in countries, being an entrepreneur, being able to promote and support and collaborate with some of the greatest speakers and coaches in the world, sharing the stage with the biggest mentors I could ever have imagined, have brought me to this position where I'm living in Bali. I'm a father of 3. I've gone through a very beautiful conscience uncoupling with my partner, who's been in my life for 15 years as a friend, as a business partner, as a wife. And now we have uncoupled in such a beautiful way. Again, looking at disconnection with love and care, not like it needs to become a divorce. In that same understanding, I've been able to apply to strategic partnerships and joint venture, attracting collaborators, attracting sponsors or investors for a lot of companies around the world. And it's been really wonderful to experiment a lot on myself. But for me, the greatest value and the greatest service I've learned that I can give to others is to work with entrepreneurs, with speakers, with coaches, with people that wish to be more impactful, but they do need these hacks. They need these new strategies. I call them new codes of networking, because networking has been taught to us as a shallow way of connecting and taking from others. But no, networking are a set of spiritual practices. They are deep, beautiful abilities to connect with human beings, to connect with ourselves, with our soul, to connect with our past lives, to connect with God. Meditation is a form of networking in its simplest form. Yoga is a form of networking. Prayer is a form of networking. Why can we not see business connections, looking for clients, looking for collaborators also is a beautiful form of connecting outwards and inwards? And that's been my journey, like studying it. I've always wanted to be a great student in school, but I was not able to because of dyslexia and ADHD. So I got kicked out of multiple high schools, never went to university. But in my 30s, I became a professor at many universities around the world, teaching about the arts and sciences of human networking. And through this journey of becoming what I believe is one of the leading students in the world for this subject, what I call quantum networking awareness, which is the awareness of the connections that we can have in the world and the awareness of time that we can bring together. And I've been very fortunate. I've been invited by universities, corporations, many business clubs and entrepreneurs have invited me over the years to help share some of these hacks and give them solutions to life that don't need to be labor. It could be really beautiful and easy and fun.
Thank you for sharing that. And as I'm listening to you, I can feel your passion and your enthusiasm for this. And I would love to pass some of that on to our listeners as well, because I know, as you said, it can be a difficult piece to make connections. Being an immigrant myself, I understand what you're saying, and I was nodding in agreement of moving to a country where you don't speak the language and you have no friends and just your immediate family. It's very difficult. So I feel like being an introvert in some of those situations can also be a really difficult piece, because I didn't have the I want to say the courage or the confidence at that time to go out and try to hand signal to people to make friends, and because I couldn't understand them. So is there a kind of a special path or a special way for introverts to also connect and make these human connections? Because I feel it is such a huge part of who we are and how we show up in the world to make connections. Is there anything that you can speak to when it comes to us introverts?
Of course, of course. To me, being an introvert, and I've tested myself multiple times, and many people don't believe it now, but I tell them, hey, everything I've done is I've understood who I was, and I'm constantly understanding more and more deeper who I truly, truly, truly am. But now at the age of 46, I've understood quite a lot about my strengths, my weaknesses, where I come from, the path I'm on, my purpose, my mission in life. And being an introvert is something that initially I couldn't believe. But after you could do these online tests. I've understood that in my case, I've actually rewired myself. I've understood the program of what does it mean to be Gil Petersil. And I said, okay, can I change this program? Can I upgrade it? Double click on an app to update it on our phones? What does it mean to double click on my heart? To upgrade my heart in the way I want to connect to people? What does it mean to double click on my mindset to build up that confidence and build up that status mindset of, am I worthy to talk to that person? Is that person going to find me interesting enough? So do I believe in myself? And a lot of it doesn't really start in the confidence of taking the steps and walking up that person and starting the conversation, but it actually starts at home. Networking can start at home. I tell this to everyone. Networking doesn't start when you're in front of that person and you got to speak. Networking started home where anyone could sit there and outline top 10 things people should know about me that is great. Top 100 achievements I've made in my life that could each turn into an interesting story that I can maybe bring up in conversations that would help people understand that I am interesting because I like that, or I like this, or I've done this, or I've done that. Many people don't understand that their life story and anything that they have done that is somewhat unique or different is an interesting way to connect with someone. It doesn't mean that suddenly I'll start talking for 10 minutes and tell you everything how I love my life story, which is a mistake that many people do. But preparing yourself at home to connect with people. So first of all, learning about yourself. And then you could also learn about the event organizer, or you could learn about the speaker that you might be going to listen to. So when you show up to the event, before the speaker gets on stage and you're connecting with people, if you've learned some interesting facts about the speaker, that's very, very unique. For example, right before COVID, I knew I was going to share the stage with Richard Branson. And before the event, I had a plan to show up in the green room where he was waiting before getting on stage. And I showed up there and I was like, wow, I'm going to meet Richard. This is great. And I showed up and it's like 30 people in the room, all waiting to connect with him, all trying to talk to him. And you see him sitting on the sofa with one other gentleman, sipping a cup of tea like a proper British guy. And I'm waiting there and I'm listening and I see that everyone is asking him questions that are very, very template questions, generic questions, questions that he has answered 1,000 times in any magazine and any interview. Now, for me, it was very clear. It's clearly I'm one of the only guys that did interview on Richard on what is most relevant for Richard right now. What does Richard want to talk about right now? What has he recently said in the last couple of days that is not frequently asked questions that is currently relevant to his business or his life? And as soon as I saw this window of opportunity, I jumped up and asked him, hey, Richard, I learned that you're looking to have Virgin Airlines having this line between London and Moscow. This is when Russia didn't have the war with Ukraine. And he's like, yes, it is actually. So I said, hey, maybe there's something that myself or someone in this room can do to help you out with that. And suddenly you see 30 people in the room looking at me like, okay. Suddenly Gil went from asking Richard a question to saying, Richard, can we help you here? All right. It changed the whole thing around. And clearly that is what someone like Richard wishes for. People to serve him. He's also a human being. He also needs help. So for me, that's where the confidence, and whether you're an introvert or something else, whether you're an immigrant that rarely speaks any English, I meet people all the time that might be extroverts, but English is not their first language, so they don't feel comfortable. I meet a lot of people who are extroverts, but they're shy. So they're not really sure how to start a conversation, even though if you get them one-on-one, they're full of energy and everything is going on. I've learned as an introvert, the same thing like I've learned that I have dyslexia. So reading was not easy, but listening to books was easy. So I went from realizing that, wow, Gil, you're not reading any books. That's a problem for someone who wants to be an overachiever to, Gil, can you read 100, can you listen to 100 books a year? All right, what does that look like? Let's do it, boom. And the same thing with ADHD. I know that I have severe ADHD, which means I have specific abilities and some people would see as disabilities, but I don't. I don't see them as plus or minus. I see them like, these are my superpowers. What does that mean? How do I use this as a superpower to better my life, to be more happy, to find more joy, to serve more people, to create more time and space for my kids, to be able to have more impact in my life? So for the introverts out there, of course, there's a lot of content out there online. You could find content from me. You can ask GPT these days, hey, top 10 tips for an introverts to network, no problem. But I would say it starts more in the mindset of like, do I know why I want to network right now? Do I realize how important it is right now for me? Do I truly realize from the bottom of my heart that unless I go out there and connect, I'll be lonely? Maybe I won't get those clients I need. Maybe I won't be able to pay for rent at the end of the month. Maybe I won't be able to attract those investors. Maybe I won't be able to get those co-founders. Like clearly networking, connecting with others is a way of life. There is no living alone in a monastery and a cave. That is something people could do. And people go and live in a cave on their own, not to disconnect, in order to connect. They go into a cave alone in order to connect with source, connect with universe, connect with their ultimate soul power. And that is powerful to understand. On my birthday, I went into a dark retreat for 72 hours. Complete darkness, small room, all by myself. Everything is there that I need except light. And that's amazing. A lot of people are saying, oh my God, were you not afraid? Yeah, I was afraid until I turned off the light and I realized that this is me. I can turn on the light at any given point, but I won't. This is me. I'm safe. You can build up confidence. And what I tell people that I did for many, many years, I saw something I wanted in the world of networking, whether it's connecting with someone, walking up to a woman when I was back then in a single, walking up to a potential investor, walking up to a speaker and saying, oh my God, I love your book. Thank you very much for what you're doing. Can I have a selfie? And understanding, hey, you can count 1, 2, 3 and go. Don't overthink it. Introverts, we tend to overthink our steps. We tend to complicate a situation, not from a negative point of view, is because introverts tend to be a lot more sensitive to detail, a lot more detail. So there's a lot of little hacks on how an introvert should manage their energy levels, how an introvert, instead of going out to a party, host a dinner at home. Instead of going into an event and standing in the middle of the event, stand somewhere with the wall into your back because your energy levels will be maintained for longer. So there's 101 different hacks out there. If there wasn't enough, anyone that heard, send me a message and tell me, Gil, I'm an introvert. I want to know more.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing those. As you're speaking about that, and not just introverts, but the power of human connection, I'm getting the sense that if we start, and I don't want to say at the wrong end, but if we start trying to connect with others before we actually make a connection with ourselves or with source, that could be rather difficult. Is there something to be said in your own journey as well? How do you feel about that? When people have maybe not yet taken the time to actually make a connection with themselves or get to know themselves before they put themselves out there in the world, can that pose challenges?
I love that question so much. I think it's actually one of the first times that I can remember that I've been asked this question. It's almost like the chicken and the egg. What comes first? Do we need to first deeply, deeply connect with ourselves and then get to know ourselves before we can connect with each other or not? So I can give answers on both sides. So I can play the devil's advocate here and say what there is one way or another way. But looking deep into my heart and the wisdom, I can tell you that I knew who I was before I made an effort to go and connect with people. The reason is I believe we get to know ourselves better and better as we give ourselves the opportunity to connect with people. We tend to see others as a mirror. We tend to look at others and decide, do I want more like this in my life? Am I inspired by this? Do I wish to be like that in my life? Does this person motivate me to be better in my life? Can I cross-pollinate or co-elevate with this person? Do I wish to serve this person? Does this person give me energy or not? Do I like coffee or tea? those sort of answers, I believe, come because of our connection with others. I believe that it may be at a much, much later stage of our life when we've lived around the world and we've done a lot and we've had a lot of successful failure and we've been in love and we've had our heart broken and we've had ups and downs. Yeah, many people can really, really say that they know themselves. But I can tell you that I meet people all the time in the middle of their life, 40s, 50s, 60s, whatever that means. These days, middle of the life could be 100, actually, because we can live very, very old if we wish to. But I can tell you that they still don't know who they are. My opinion is along the journey of discovering yourself, discover the greatness in people. So my approach is to meet people and to see the greatness in them, to meet people. And instead of messing around in my head, because many of us know that one of the biggest challenges we have in the world is connected to mental health. It is connected to loneliness. It is connected to not feeling seen, not feeling heard, not feeling that we understand what our purpose is. And networking, for me, if we look at what Google, for example, says is the number one fear that people have, Google will say that it's public speaking. But if we flip those words over, it's speaking publicly, which means that speaking publicly, and usually we don't speak publicly to ourselves, we speak to others, is a massive fear that we have. And in order to overcome any fear that we have in our lives, I believe it's really great to talk to others. You have a fear of spiders, go talk to some people who have overcome their fear with spiders. You have a fear of moving countries, go and speak to some people who have moved countries. I remember, now I have 3 kids. After our first kid, we wanted to have another kid. And my wife suggested, hey, can we speak to some of my friends that have had a home birth? And right away as a man, I went into fear. No, what? I can't control. No, oh my God. I came up with 101 ideas why I would not be like, oh my, I would freak out in the situation because I was thinking, well, what if something happens? What am I going to do? And right away after speaking to just one couple, all of my fears disappeared so quickly and so beautifully on something that is quite serious. And a lot of people out there would not be okay with a home birth. But once I've heard him speak and I've heard her speak, and I did a little bit of my research, I understood that, hey, 99.9% of all births are completely fine. How good is this for the mother? How good is this for the baby? How beautiful is this? Like, wow, okay, boom, I got over a fear. That fear would not have moved away unless I spoke to others. The same thing with my kids, for example, when they were younger, I realized that because of maybe school or because of nannies, they had fear of lizards and snakes. And I was like, no, no, no. Let's go to talk to some people like snake charmers because we live in Bali. I'm like, hey, there's a lot of people here. Can we talk to some people who are with? And they literally came to our house with a few snakes and left the snakes in the cage for now. And they talked to the kids. And after maybe 20 or 30 minutes, my son said, hey, can you let the snake out of the cage? My son was the one that said it, and he was the one that was most afraid. So suddenly, just by talking to someone who plays with snakes all the time, and the snake is not venomous, it's a friendly thing, don't be afraid. Suddenly, this little young human said, hey, he was thinking sympathetically about the snake. Hey, let the snake out. I'd like to interact with the snake. And it's the same thing with humans. We are afraid to connect with strangers because for some reason, we've been told as youngsters, don't talk to strangers. Stranger is danger. No, where did that come from? Like I've been always told, don't take candies from a stranger. Hold on. What if the stranger is working in a candy shop and you and I just walked into a candy shop and the worker in the candy shop is handing me a platter with samples? He's in the candy shop. Should I be afraid of that, Mom? No. There's context. Why be afraid? So don't walk up to someone that's waving a gun at everyone. But if someone is working in a theme park and you can hold on to a gun and shoot some balloons, should I be afraid of that? Or should that be something that is nice? So we've never been taught enough about contextually how to assess and connect people. And at the same level, we've not been taught how to connect with ourselves and how to quickly understand ourselves and why it's important to give time to be alone and to understand who we are. And when social media came in, suddenly we're not alone. Whenever we feel like we should be alone, right away we go and we check other people's lives. So again, I believe that along the journey of getting to know ourselves, It's very beautiful to have a mission to meet some of the most outstanding people in the world, or some of the best people that you can have as friends, and explore what does it mean to have new people in my life? What does it mean to try to connect with 3 or 5 or 10 people this month and to look to be inspired by them? For me, that's exciting.
Yeah, I feel your excitement on this side of the call. So thank you for sharing that. And you bring up a really interesting point, and that is context, because obviously it matters what context we make connections and what context we meet ourselves and what context we meet others in. And you touched before on disconnection also, and that a lot of people might have a very negative perception of that, or have been taught it's negative to disconnect from yourself, from someone. Again, I feel like in this sense, context matters. And as you touched on in your own life, there are conscious points where we can choose to disconnect from something in a way that isn't negative or harmful or doesn't rob us of all of our energy and put us in a dark hole. So how does context figure into when we talk about disconnection, Gil? And can disconnection be healing and supportive and helpful in our lives? And how do we go about making it that way so that we're not afraid to make those choices when they're necessary?
Yeah, it's such a beautiful, beautiful question. And it's really in the last 2 years that I've gone into a truly quantum level of learning and disconnection. Because for majority of my adult life, I've been studying and teaching about connection, how to make connection, why to make connection, where to make connection, the do's and don'ts of making connections. And I've spent just a little bit of my time about talking about disconnection, or leaving toxic people, or disconnecting from the wrong network, or sometimes you need to leave a conversation because you see someone more relevant for you. And if you don't know how to lead that conversation because you're such a nice person, you're losing. And very often people would find themselves in an event where there's 100 amazing people around them, but maybe they're an introvert, maybe they're a little bit shy, maybe they still haven't studied some new codes of networking. And a lot of them talking to one person for 30 minutes, and that person might be very interesting, but maybe that person is not so relevant to what they need right now. And this connection became so, again, important for me because I had to go really, really deeply in my own personal life into conscious uncoupling. And I think one of the deepest disconnection we can have in life, outside of death, which is a whole different level of disconnection. If someone dies in our lives, we need to learn to let them go. But I think even harder is to let go of someone that you've spent a decade plus with. What is it, and especially we have 3 kids, we got businesses. What does it mean to uncouple, but not really disconnect in a negative way? Because disconnection doesn't have to be completely disconnecting and you go left, I go right, and I never connect with you again. Even in an event, if you disconnect with someone from a conversation, it doesn't mean you can't come back to them in 45 minutes because you see them standing next to someone that you really want to talk to. So you go back into that connection and like suddenly you've been introduced to the person exactly you wanted to talk to. So for me, first of all, understanding what is most relevant for me right now in my life. And when I know what is relevant for me, I realize that connecting to the what is the who. Because if now relevant to me is getting better at marketing, or relevant to me is fundraising, or relevant to me is finding love in my life, or relevant to me is finding some new clients, whatever that is, it doesn't have to be, do I activate networking to find more clients? No, I can activate networking to maybe find some strategic partners or some collaborators, and maybe they can then introduce me to regular clients all the time. Or instead of just going out there and looking for a wife or looking for a husband, can I go out there and try to make some new friends? Because very often I have people showing up in my life and like, oh my God, Gil, can you help me find a husband? I get that all the time because I used to run a very successful speed dating company. And I'm like, well, I'm curious. Tell me about the kind of husband you wish to have. And very often women describe the ideal husband they want to have. But I'm like, but hold on. If he's the ideal husband, that's not going to be the man you meet right now. The man you're going to meet right now will not be the ideal husband. He'll be an amazing friend to you. He'll be a connection. He'll be relevant to now. You might share some hobbies. You might find like each other very sexy. You might have something in common. That's what you're looking for now. It's relevant. So what I tell people is do a little audit to see if who you currently are networking with and spending your time with, are they relevant? Are they what I would call networking priorities? Like literally like sit and look at your calendar and say, who am I spending time with this week? Who am I meeting with and why? And then you can also audit backwards. Look at the last 1 month. Who have I met with that honestly, from the bottom of my heart, I actually didn't need to go to that meeting. I could have canceled it, but maybe I felt bad and they needed my help. They made me feel guilty and blah, blah, blah. We come up with all these excuses, but are we giving an excuse on their behalf? Or are we giving an excuse to the universe or to God? Who are we giving this excuse to? No, no, no. We can also see it as procrastination. We can also see it as us delaying the inevitable of at one point, I'll have to stop seeing this person. At one point, I'll have to create some space from that person. Maybe say, hey, for the next 1 month, I don't meet with this person, not because I don't like them, not because I don't love them, not because I don't respect them, because right now I don't feel value from them. I feel they drain my energy. I feel they're stuck in their own hole. I feel they only take from me. I feel that if suddenly I give them like, wow, you realize that I gave this person 5 hours of my time last week or last month. What if I can give someone else, so 2 or 3 other people, those 5 hours? What would that look like? As soon as we understand that some of the people in our lives are not so relevant or they're not such a high priority, what we are creating is time to network with more relevant people. Because often people tell me I want more networking, and I give them epic strategies. I tell them, here you go, channel of clients, channel of investors, challenge of beautiful people that you can connect with, soul to soul connection, new friendships. And they all come back to me and say, but Gil, I don't have time. I'm like, hey, we spoke about that. We got to make time before we could just bring in new connections, because we all have 24 hours in a day, which we are living in. Realistically, most people sleep for 7 to 8 hours, and we have some hours by ourselves. We have some hours by our family. We have some hours for our business or our job. And then we have some hours or minutes a day that is used to connect with people. Choosing to disconnect from some people on our network and having clarity. Sometimes people can ask someone for advice on clarity. So often my clients tell me, Gil, I'm not sure who it is that I need to meet. Wonderful. Thank you. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about where your life is, where your business is, who's going to help you with the next 10 steps in life. Very often entrepreneurs come to me like, Gil, I really need your help as a coach to help me with the strategy ahead. Strategy ahead could be 10 steps, 100 steps. Richard Branson will say it's 10,000 steps ahead to build a business. No one says that you need to take all those steps. People along the way could take some of those steps. And very often, people on your journey can help you bypass some steps or hack some steps or jump over some steps because they've done it before, so they can make it easier for us. So suddenly, if we have clarity on the people that we don't need, and we gain slowly clarity through trial and error. It's okay. If you have a good coach, you can get there much faster, of course. You gain clarity on who it is that you need to meet. And suddenly this connection became beautiful. It became a gift. Suddenly I have a gift of time in my life to make new connections.
That's really powerful. I want to leave that sitting there for our listeners for a moment so they can let that sink in, because of that fear of making a wrong decision, or like you said, making excuses on why we should be connecting with people and keep connecting with them. This choice actually frees us up. It frees us up internally, frees us up externally, and makes space for the things that are more relevant to come into our lives. So beautifully said, and thank you for sharing that. Now, throughout our conversation, you have here and there hinted at codes. I'm assuming codes of human connection, codes of networking. Are there any particular codes, as you say, that our listeners should know about, or anything as far as codes? And what are those codes that you are referring to?
Yeah, thank you for that. So codes for me could be seen. Codes in general are programs. Codes could be habits. Codes could be rituals. Religions speak of rituals that you could do every day, whether it's prayer, whether it's meditation, whether it's making an offering. In life, connecting with people, communicating, these are all codes, because Every culture has a different way of connecting. Every culture or many cultures have a different way of even shaking hands or not shaking hands. Cultures have even a different way of handing a business card to each other. Some cultures are really into business cards, some cultures are not. Cultures have a way of following up, a way of starting a meeting, a way of ending the meeting. What I've understood that these are codes. Why are they codes? Because there are too many out there. We can't study all the codes. I've done that job for you guys out there. Ladies and gentlemen, I've taken the hard work last 15 years of my life. I've been studying top cultures in the world. I've been studying codes, habits, networking ways. I've spoken about the topic in 50 different countries around the world. I've spoken it in multiple different languages. And the codes are a way to see, to reflect, to refine, and to repeat the way we connect with people. Like the code of programming, people who are programming code on computers, it's 1010. You can also see that as a code of networking, the simplest way of looking at code of networking. I'm connecting with you, I'm disconnecting with you. I'm connecting with you, I'm disconnecting with you. Just by looking at that simple understanding of like, who in my life do I connect with and disconnect? And do I ever measure how many minutes or hours in the last week or month have I given this person? Am I aware of that? If you have a job, in that job, how many different people are you talking to? And how much of your time are you giving to these people? The challenge that we have as people in the world these days is really connected to mental health. And because of that, I've had to go very deep into studying where are all of our problems coming from. And if you look at the 17 goals of the UN, most of these goals are external goals that we have as humans. The goal that is missing, I actually went into Davos, the World Economic Forum in 2022, and brought up a topic that is really important. I brought up an 18th goal, which I would call sustainable relationships, which as people, we don't have that education. We don't study what does it mean to start and build a sustainable relationship. Like, do I need to build a friendship with 5 people and that's it? Those are my best friends for life? Is that what we've been taught? Because many cultures study that. Those are my friends. That's like my closest community. I'm going to stay with you for the rest of my lives. And very often, these people try to do business together. And most of the time, those businesses and friendships break apart. But hold on, is that a good code? Is that an old code? Is that a relatively new code that is completely broken down? Why not look for friends that are relevant right now? Why not say, hey, how do I create 100 minutes available, just 100 minutes this week to spend time to look for the kind of people I want to connect with? It means that going to an event. It means that looking online for some interesting people that inspire me. It means to maybe read some books of authors that maybe I know those authors live in my city, and maybe these authors are running some workshops here and I can actually give 100 minutes this week and 100 minutes next week. And by the 3rd week, I'm shaking the hand with that author. Wow, that only took me 300 minutes. Now, the reason I bring up a minute, because most people don't know, this is something that I speak very, very deeply about. Most people in the world don't know how many minutes we have in a day. So I'm going to challenge right now, everyone who's listening right now at this exact same moment, come up with a number right now. Say a number to yourself. What number do you believe without trying to calculate? What would you say, Petra? How many minutes in a day?
1,200 minutes.
All right, beautiful. So people say a lot of different numbers. Now, a lot of people try to calculate it in their head. So they say a number that's maybe close enough. A lot of people say random numbers. Some people say 20, 3,000, 50,000. Like, whoa, 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 whoa. Where are you in your time awareness? How many minutes in a day? And the fact is that we never learned that in school. We learned how many minutes in an hour. We learned how many seconds in a minute. We learned how many days in a year, months in a year, weeks in a year. We learned a lot of other formulas when it comes to awareness, when it comes to codes. There are 1,440 minutes in a day. 1440. For all the spiritual practitioners and guides that you have listening to this, that number 1440 should be significant. Please never forget it. The fact that I hacked this number, it is a code on many, many levels. We don't have to get into it too deeply of why it's such a powerful code, but we tend to sleep for about 440 minutes a day, which is 7 hours and 20 minutes. which is, they tell us sleep between 7 to 8 hours. If you want to be healthy, there you go, 440 minutes. And then that means you have 1,000 minutes a day to network, which is what we do. When we're eating, we are networking. Ideally, you're really connecting with the food and appreciating the food and allowing the food to digest. Or many people just watch a video and they talk to others. We're networking with others. We're networking with ourselves. So if you have 1,000 minutes every single day awake, available for connecting, see if you could break it down into a code. And there's no one code that's right for all. I tell people that start with a code of being curious as to, how can I spend my time differently and I connect. Get into a code of being very appreciative and being very complimentary to yourself and others. Like, wow, I like these 5 people in my life. I see them a little bit far. And compliment them. Like, think about why these guys are amazing. And think like, how can I allocate 3 minutes or 5 minutes every day to these 5 people that I really like? And you'll see how very, very quickly these people will literally physically come closer and closer into your life. And then you could say, hey, can I give this person 100 minutes this week? What does it mean? Follow up with them, send them a voice message, call them up, try to meet up with them. Don't randomly call people. Sometimes they're not okay with that, but see if you can give them attention. The codes are out there. There are too many codes. I like telling people that the codes are out there for us to be aware of. Start by being aware of positivity towards the network out there. Start complimenting people in your life and connecting them together. Just add value. Start being curious into people every single day. Take 10 minutes, take 30 minutes, and just go into curiosity and impact networking without talking to them, just looking at them and appreciating them. Not looking at their social media and being jealous. Looking at their picture, just their picture, and appreciating this guy, Robert, or looking at this woman, Melissa, and I love you, I appreciate you. The last time we talked to you was great. Just giving them deep connection. By the way, I did this in the dark multiple occasions. We're in the complete darkness. I went into quantum networking, connecting with people, and it's amazing. Once you start getting into these codes, you'll get into the code of reconnection. And we have the connection and disconnection, but we also have the reconnection. Some people in the world call it following up. But reconnection is saying, hey, can I give that person an extra 5 minutes every day just to reconnect? Can I pick 10 people in my life every single day and leave them a 1-minute voice message? Just 10 people, just 1 minute. It just takes 10 minutes. When people say, oh, I don't have time to follow up with my clients, so I don't have time to follow up with my family. No. 1 minute, even a video message is so powerful way of connecting with people. So if people played with these new codes, whenever we have another lockdown, God forbid, or whenever we have another way of disconnecting us, we will feel more connected than ever before.
Yeah, thank you for that. I feel like in just the last 10 minutes, there was so many aha moments, light bulb moments, nuggets in there for our listeners. Thank you for sharing that. And I hope that our listeners are going to remember now the 1440 in their lives and start planning some of their networking from that point and around that point. Thank you for sharing that. And Gil, if our listeners have found this episode inspirational, if they have been impacted by what we have been talking about, and they're curious now, they might want to connect for themselves, maybe with you or with others in their lives. How can they reach out? How can they find you? How can they connect with you?
Yeah, thank you for that. And thank you for your really deep questions today. I love such interviews. I would say to people that if you could take anything away out of today, consider just the reconnection. Sometimes connecting to new people is too difficult, or disconnecting from old people is too difficult. Just consider the reconnections. Open up your phone, go into your messages, and just scroll down, down, down. 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, and ask yourself, which of these people do you want to reconnect with? And just send them a 1-minute voice message just to share what's happening in your life and to ask something about them. And don't apologize for not connecting before, because they didn't connect either. So don't go into the negativity, just go into the positivity of, hey, it feels like a minute has passed and I felt like reaching out to you. Maybe you felt their name in a meditation. Maybe as I was scrolling through my phone, I noticed your name and my heart just opened up, and I wanted to leave you a quick voice message to let you know what's new and exciting in my life. curious to know how your project has progressed. How's your health doing? The worst thing people do is they say, "Hi, Gil, how are you?" That is the worst way of reconnecting with someone. And if you want to do the same thing with me, you'll really bring a smile to my face. I'm someone that has managed to hack time, meaning I've created a lot of available time in my life. I believe in freedom, and I've created over 100 free minutes every single day in my life to just receive from others, to listen to voice message. And I love that so much. So if anyone is listening and they felt inspired by someone, I say, tell me you did, please. And if you do it by text, wonderful. If you do it by voice, it would really open up my heart, and I will send you a voice message back. It is me and it's not an AI. If you want to somehow connect with me deeply, tell me what you're up to these days. Tell me your story. And don't leave me a 20-minute voice message. Someone the other day left me a 17-minute voice message. And I responded and I say, thank you for that beautiful download. Can I ask you to send it again with a maximum of 3 minutes? And they did it very quickly. And like, wow, Gil, I felt like I wanted to share everything with you. And I said, hey, I'm happy to learn and listen, but 17-minute monologue might be a little too much. Ladies and gentlemen, just connect to me. I am the only Gil Petersil on Google, whether it's on Instagram, on LinkedIn, my two favorite social medias. Feel free to reach out to me. It's easy. Ask me for help. Ask me for collaborators. Ask me for hacks in your business. It doesn't matter if your business is currently making $1 million a month or $10,000 a year. Doesn't really matter. We all need networking hacks, and you deserve it more than anyone else. Thank you so much, Petra, for bringing that up and allowing me to share from the heart.
Thank you so much, Gil, for joining me today. I truly appreciate your presence, and I feel you have such deep wisdom that you have gathered on your own journey that I'm privileged that you have shared that with us today. So thank you for taking some of that free time that you have hacked in your life and spending that with us today. I truly, truly feel grateful also to have connected with you. And thanks for helping us celebrate our 300th episode on the podcast. I really wanted to give that time to somebody very special. And I feel like you were the absolute perfect person to create this episode with. So thank you for indulging me on that. And thanks for spending time with me today.
Thank you.
I wish you all the best going forward. I know our listeners are going to see you probably at all sorts of events going forward. Hopefully some of them will connect with you, reach out and work with you in the future as well. And thanks for making that possible and wonderful, wonderful work that you do. Thank you, Gil. And take care.
Thank you. I look forward to more connections with your community and others. I'm here to serve.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to listen in. If you enjoy the Jōrni Podcast, please support us by subscribing, sharing on social media, and leaving us a review. We appreciate you. And you can find more of The Jōrni on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and our website, thejōrni.com. Sending you love and courage, and see you next time.